Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every decision you made today was never truly yours. The clothes you wear, the career you chose, the opinions you defend, even the dreams you chase. Not because someone forced you, but because little by little you learned to ask a single question before almost every decision. Asterisk, asterisk, what will people think? Asterisk, asterisk. Most people never notice when this question takes control of their lives. It does not arrive dramatically. It doesn't announce itself. It slips quietly into ordinary moments. You hesitate before speaking because you fear sounding foolish. You suppress excitement because it might seem childish. You hide your sadness because you don't want to appear weak. You pretend to agree because disagreement feels dangerous. Each moment seems insignificant. Each compromise feels harmless. But over the years, these tiny betrayals accumulate until one morning you realize something terrifying. You have become fluent in everyone else's expectations, yet completely forgotten the language of your own soul. Carl Jung believed this was one of the greatest dangers of psychological life. Not because society is evil, not because relationships are meaningless, but because the human mind possesses an extraordinary ability to mistake adaptation for identity. The child learns very early that love often comes with conditions. Smile and you are praised. Obey and you are accepted. Hide certain emotions and people feel comfortable around you. Without realizing it, the unconscious begins collecting evidence. Asterisk, to belong. I must become someone else. Asterisk. This conclusion is almost never conscious. It settles quietly beneath awareness. Years later, it no longer feels like a choice. It feels like reality itself. This is why so many people wake up successful, yet strangely empty. Respected, yet deeply unknown. Surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. Because there is a painful difference between being accepted and being seen. Acceptance belongs to the mask. Being seen belongs to the self. And Carl Jung devoted much of his life's work to understanding what happens when those two become separated. He discovered that the farther we move from the self, the louder the outside world becomes. Approval becomes addictive. Criticism becomes unbearable. Comparison becomes constant. Silence becomes frightening. Not because the world changed, but because we abandoned the only place where true certainty could ever exist. Within ourselves. The tragedy is that almost no one notices this process while it is happening. It feels responsible, it feels mature, it feels like becoming an adult. Only much later does the anxiety begin, the exhaustion, the strange feeling that your life somehow belongs to everyone, except you. And perhaps that is why you are here, not because you accidentally clicked on this video, but because something inside you has grown tired of asking the world who you are. Tonight, we begin a different journey. Not toward becoming someone new, but toward remembering the person you were, before the world taught you who to be. There is a prison that almost no one can see. It has no walls, no bars, no locked doors. Yet millions of people spend their entire lives inside it. Not because someone forced them to stay, but because they slowly forgot there was ever another way to live. The prison is built from invisible expectations. Every compliment becomes another brick. Every criticism, another chain. Every silent comparison, another locked door. The strange part is that this prison often looks like a successful life. You become responsible, reliable, polite, productive. People admire you. Referencia, focus only on yourself and forget about everyone else. Carl Jung number. Introduction, imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every decision you made today was never truly yours. The clothes you wear, the career you chose, the opinions you defend, even the dreams you chase. Not because someone forced you, but because, little by little, you learn to ask a single question before almost every decision. Asterisk, asterisk, what will people think? Asterisk, asterisk. Most people never notice when this question takes control of their lives. It does not arrive dramatically, it doesn't announce itself, it slips quietly into ordinary moments. You hesitate before speaking because you fear sounding foolish. You suppress excitement because it might seem childish. You hide your sadness because you don't want to appear weak. You pretend to agree because disagreement feels dangerous. Each moment seems insignificant. Each compromise feels harmless. But over the years, they describe you as someone who has everything under control. Yet, beneath that carefully constructed image, something quietly begins to disappear. Not your intelligence, not your ambition, not even your happiness. Something far more fundamental. Your inner authority. Carl Jung believed that the deepest psychological crisis does not begin when life falls apart. It begins much earlier, the moment you unconsciously hand over the right to define yourself to the outside world. Most people imagine losing themselves as a dramatic event, a terrible trauma, a devastating failure. But Jung observes something entirely different. The loss of the self is almost always gradual. So gradual that you mistake it for maturity. Think about the last time someone disagreed with you. Did you immediately become curious, or did you begin questioning your own worth? Think about the last time someone ignored your message. Did you simply continue your day? Or did your mind immediately begin creating stories? Maybe they're upset. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I'm no longer important. Notice what happened. Nothing external actually changed. Only your interpretation changed. And yet, your emotional world shifted completely. Why? Because somewhere deep within the unconscious, your peace had become dependent on another person's reaction. Jung considered this one of the earliest signs of alienation. Not alienation from society, but alienation from yourself. The word itself comes from the idea of becoming a stranger, and that is exactly what happens. You slowly become a stranger to your own instincts. You stop asking, what do I truly feel? Instead, you ask, what should I feel? You stop asking, what do I really want? Instead, what would make sense to everyone else? At first, this adaptation seems harmless. Human beings need community. We need connection. Jung never denied that. In fact, he believed healthy relationships were essential for psychological development. But he also warned that adaptation has a hidden limit. The moment your identity becomes entirely dependent upon acceptance, adaptation quietly transforms into psychological imprisonment. Imagine a magnificent oak tree. When it is young, it bends with the wind. That flexibility keeps it alive. But imagine if the tree continued bending year after year, until it forgot how to grow upward. Eventually, it would no longer follow the sun. It would simply follow the wind. Many people live exactly this way, not guided by purpose, but by approval, not growing toward their own nature, but constantly adjusting to whichever direction receives the least resistance. The tragedy is that this feels normal, because everyone around them is doing the same. Entire societies can become organized around mutual performance. Everyone watches everyone. Everyone imitates everyone. Everyone fears standing apart. And gradually, no one remembers what authenticity actually feels like. Jung saw this pattern repeatedly among his patients. People who looked completely successful from the outside, yet arrived in his office with one haunting sentence: I don't know who I am anymore. Notice, they did not say they were failures. They did not say life was impossible. They simply felt disconnected. As though they had been living someone else's story for so long, they could no longer hear their own voice. Perhaps you have experienced something similar. Not dramatically, just quietly. A strange exhaustion after trying to please everyone. an emptiness after receiving praise, a feeling that even your achievements somehow belong to the version of yourself others wanted, rather than the person you truly are. If so, Carl Jung would not see this as weakness. He would see it as something profoundly important, not the end of your journey, but the first whisper of the self, calling you home. There is something almost every child learns, long before they understand language. Love is not always unconditional. Sometimes it must be earned. A child laughs too loudly, and someone says, "Be quiet." He cries. "Stop being so sensitive." She becomes angry. Good girls don't behave like that. Little by little, an invisible lesson begins to take shape, not through cruelty, not through punishment, but through repetition. Some parts of me are welcome, others must remain hidden. Carl Jung called this hidden adaptation, the persona, one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of psychology. Most people imagine the persona as hypocrisy, pretending, being fake. But Jung never saw it that way. To him, the persona was an act of genius. Without it, no civilization could exist. Imagine trying to say everything you think, every emotion you feel, every impulse that crosses your mind. Relationships would collapse. Communities would disappear. The persona allows human beings to live together. It teaches courtesy, patience, discipline, responsibility. It helps us become teachers, parents, leaders, friends. The mask itself is not the problem. The tragedy begins the moment you forget that it is only a mask, because something extraordinary happens over time. At first, you wear the mask. Then the mask begins wearing you. You no longer choose the role. The role begins choosing you. You become the responsible one, the strong one, the successful one, the one who never complains, the one who always understands. People admire you, depend on you, need you. And without realizing it, you begin protecting the image more than your own soul. Jung warned that this is one of the greatest psychological dangers of adulthood, not because the persona is evil, but because it is incredibly rewarding. The world applauds masks. Masks are predictable, comfortable, safe. People know exactly who you are supposed to be, but the self cannot be controlled so easily. The self changes, questions, dreams, breaks old identities, creates new ones. The persona seeks certainty, the self seeks truth, and eventually these two paths begin moving in opposite directions. This is why so many people feel exhausted without understanding why. They are no longer carrying responsibilities. They are carrying performances. Every conversation becomes another performance. Every smile, another performance. Every social interaction, another rehearsal. Every success, another obligation to remain exactly the same person everyone expects. Imagine an actor who has played the same character every day for 30 years. At first, he enjoys the role, the applause, the recognition, the admiration. But after decades, something terrifying begins to happen. He no longer remembers who he is when the curtain closes. Jung believed many people live exactly this tragedy, not on a stage, but inside ordinary life. They become so identified with the image that every authentic feeling becomes threatening. If sadness appears, hide it. If anger appears, suppress it. If curiosity leads somewhere unexpected, ignore it. Protect the image, protect the role, protect the mask, until eventually the mask becomes so polished that even the person wearing it cannot distinguish performance from identity. This is why psychological crises often arrive unexpectedly. Someone loses a job and suddenly feels worthless. A relationship ends, and they no longer know who they are. Retirement comes, and life feels strangely empty. The event itself is rarely the true cause. The crisis reveals something that was already happening. The persona was carrying an identity, the self had never been allowed to build. Jung often noticed that people came to therapy believing they had lost everything, but in reality they had lost only one thing: the image they believed they had to maintain. And strangely, that loss often became the beginning of real life. Because only when the mask begins to crack can the voice beneath it finally be heard. This is why Jung never encouraged people to destroy the persona. That would only create chaos. Instead, he invited something much more courageous. Wear the mask when necessary, but never confuse it with your face. Fulfill your roles, without allowing your roles to define your existence. Because one day the applause will stop. The expectations will change. The people who admired your image will disappear. And in that silence, only one question will remain. Who are you when no one is watching? That question is where individuation truly begins. The moment you begin to question the mask, something unexpected happens. You don't immediately become free. Instead, your eyes begin searching for something else, other people. You look at their careers, their relationships, their confidence, their success, their happiness. Without realizing it, the prison simply changes shape. You are no longer asking, who should I pretend to be? Now you are asking, why am I not where they are? Comparison feels harmless, almost intelligent. Society even rewards it. From childhood, you are ranked, compared, measured, grades, income, beauty, followers, achievements. Everything becomes a number. Everything becomes a competition, until eventually you stop experiencing life and begin evaluating it. Carl Jung believed this is one of the most subtle ways the soul becomes fragmented. Because comparison asks a question the self was never created to answer. Am I ahead of everyone else? The self asks something entirely different. Am I becoming who I was meant to become? Those are not the same journey. Imagine two rivers. One flows quickly across open land, the other moves slowly through mountains, changing direction hundreds of times before reaching the sea. If the second river compared itself to the first, it would believe something was terribly wrong. Why am I so slow? Why do I keep turning? Why is my path so difficult? But the mountain never intended that river to move quickly. It intended it to carve depth. Human beings forget this. We assume speed means purpose, visibility means value, recognition means progress. Yet some of the deepest transformations in human life are completely invisible. No applause, no audience, no celebration, only silence, only patience, only inner work. Jung repeatedly observed that individuation, the lifelong process of becoming yourself, rarely looks impressive from the outside. In fact, it often appears confusing, messy, even like failure. There are seasons when nothing seems to happen. You lose certainty, old ambitions disappear, relationships begin changing, dreams collapse. The world looks at you and assumes you are lost. But inwardly, something extraordinary is taking place. The old personality is dying, the new one has not yet been born. Most people panic during this stage because comparison tells them everyone else is moving forward. But Jung would ask a different question. Forward toward what? Toward success, toward approval, toward comfort, or toward themselves? There is a profound difference. One path leads to admiration, the other leads to wholeness. And very few people have the courage to choose wholeness when admiration is still available. Think about a butterfly. No one celebrates the caterpillar. No one applauds the cocoon.